All right. Whoops. Hold on. Let me turn that speaker off. All right. Let me know if you can hear me. I'll bring me over here in just a second. Get rid of that. And need a photo of me. What do I have? If anybody's out there in chat, I know we've still got 10 minutes or so. Let me know if you can hear me. AD is doing an update right now and will be out in just a second. As I get ready. You can do it. He's at 98%. And then I probably got to do a reboot after that, I'm sure. That's my water. You could hear that. All right, let me bring us over and pre-show here. And what do I have? I don't want to show that. I don't have a good thing to show whenever no one's here with me. Anything there I don't want anybody to see? No, that all looks normal. And maybe we can pull up a... Here, I will pull up a web page while we talk. While we wait. AD will be around in a second. And I need to get rid of that. I don't know if anybody's out there, let me know when you can hear me. I need to do a sound check and see if our sound is okay. Stream looks good. All right. We all know about CrashPlan giving us the boot, abandoning the consumer, and then they want you to telling you that they have a deal with you for Carbonite. I don't have any strong feelings about Carbonite one way or the other, but I do know I have no trust whatsoever for CrashPlan now. And if they recommend Carbonite, that's a strike against them. I'm sure they're fine. I'm probably going to go with Backblaze for my individual computers and laptops and that kind of stuff. Backblaze seems to be reasonably priced. Let's see if we can get pricing up here. Here you go. Here's pricing right there. And a reasonable amount of data. So the problem is going to be how many different computers I need to put that on. Because I technically have 2 kids at college, each with a laptop and a desktop. That's 4 computers. And then 3 here at the house I would need to do. That's 7 computers. What is 7 times 50? What's that, $350? All right? No. I'm an accountant. I should know this. 7 times 50. Hello, 7 times 50. Yeah, that's right, 350. Why did I doubt myself? That's a lot of money to pay. Oh, crap. Didn't mean to do that. It's a lot of money to pay for backup, so I might have to consider some different options. $350 a year. Dadgum. Versus, because I was on CrashPlan's Family, which back then was $120. I think it was $120 per year for a family with up to 10 computers. Maybe it's why they went out of business, or they're stopping their consumer brand option. But they could have, raised the price on us and done something like that, because there are some other good things about it. I don't know anything about Backblaze really, but that's probably where I'm going to go. I do like how they every year give a report on hard drives, and it's what drove me eventually to go full Hitachi or HGST now for my spindle drives. All right, so just update AD. Looks like you see him on Skype, so he should be getting ready here. I'm gonna go over to a graphic for just a second, and I'll be right back. And I'm gonna cut the audio. So give me a couple minutes. All right, so people can hear us now, and I'm going to flip us over. People can see us now.
Uh-oh. They can see us and hear us.
See us and hear us.
Sounds good.
They're out there. There we go. So we're still pre-show. If we got a minute or two, if you want to gather your, I know you just brought everything up, but you need to get like the 2 albums pulled up, to whatever those things are called, PowerPoint or.
Actually, I'm in Lightroom because like what we did before, I got Lightroom going here in case you want to show anybody anything or as we go. So yeah, I got everything. I think
you're all good to go?
I think so. That part of it, at least. The rest of it. Hopefully, the system holds together and the duct tape doesn't fall off.
Yep. So hold on. We'll start with the beginners group. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So we'll just do all. Good. We'll just do all 5. I think there might be. There's at least 1, maybe 2 new people in that one.
Nice. So you want to know how I
think
might be, aside from the wacky
2 new people
thing with the
in that one.
Nice. Windows doing its update.
I'm getting
aside from the
loop.
Wacky, you're getting a loop thing with the
in that one.
Nice. Okay. Windows doing its update from me. Aside from the
I'm sure it's on my end.
Wacky, you're getting a loop thing. I don't have anything else running.
I need
yet. Okay. Windows doing its update from me. Aside from the
I'm sure it's on my end.
Wacky, you're getting a loop thing. I don't have anything else running.
I need
yet. Okay.
I think I know where it's
from me. Aside from the
I'm sure it's on my end.
Wacky, you're getting a loop thing. I don't have anything else running.
I need
yet. Okay.
I think I know where it's
from me. Aside.
There we go. Holy crap.
That's right. See, I'm telling you, whacked today.
All right, so I'm going to start our recordings. If anybody else, I imagine everybody heard that. Sorry about that. I had too many browser windows open. It's now stopped, and crap, I got rid of the pre-show thing, but we're still in a little bit of pre-show as we get ready here. More on my end. AD jumped in and was already ready to go. I need to get a couple last things done. Okay. Well, I'm sorry. What were you trying to say before I had the awesome loop?
Yeah. So no, I was just saying, the Windows delay while it was doing the latest update, because I'm part of the Insiders program, so I get these updates and they basically, you don't know when they're coming and they shove them down your throat. And it's like, here it is, do it. And it's nice to have like the latest, greatest. Yeah. Like I have the fall update right now. It's great. I have all these toys, but I don't know why they pick like, it seems like whenever, maybe I'm just doing something all the time, but it just seems like, and then earlier today, I was telling you how my day went. earlier today, I'm like, oh, I'll get ahead of the game. Here's what I'll do. I'll assign my Google Drive to my Lightroom. That way, when Mike sends me photos, I can import them quickly into Lightroom, and they're already here, so we can show people edits and things like that.
Yeah.
I didn't have a Google Drive app on my computer, so I went and I downloaded the Google Drive app from Google, installed it, and everything. It proceeded to when I copied the files out. Lightroom, I had it on copy. I always do copy. I never do move. It decides to move all the files out of my Google Drive folder and starts deleting them out of our shared folder.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, Mike's going to kill me. So I'm copying stuff back like a madman. That's how the whole day today has been. I'm glad I don't have nuclear codes or have anything to do with anything really important, because today would have been.
Things always seem to snowball like that for me too. It's just one thing after another building on top of stuff, and things are always harder than what they should be.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
All right, I think I'm ready. If you're ready.
Yeah, I'm just playing. I'm really just playing around with full screen stuff and crap that I really don't need to.
Let me double check one last thing. That I have space on my recording drive that we're not going to. I double record, so yeah, I got plenty of space. We're fine. We're fine.
All right. Well.
All right.
You do that. I'm going to try one more thing.
Hello, Amber's out there.
Hey, awesome.
No, Amber has won before. But was she the last winner?
Oh, I don't know.
I'll look it up. No, I was asking myself more that.
Okay.
No, Amanda was, but Amber has won before, I believe.
Yes, yeah, that is correct, sir. I know all these buttons do.
Yep, she's won.
I'm taking command of my Lightroom right now. Hope you guys are happy.
Yes.
Does that work? Oh, look at that. It works. It's cool.
Scott Norris is out there. Hey, Scott.
Scott Norris is out there. I saw that Tony Curato submitted a photo.
He did.
These guys
Gary's
are awesome.
Out there. Hello, Gary. Hello, Scott and Amber. And all three of those people are in the same place. We do have three different places that I'm monitoring. YouTube, our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and the website, which is jpegtheraw.com/live. I'll try and watch your chat in any place. For whatever reason, Facebook sometimes I don't see I got to refresh the page in order to see the chat. I don't know what is up with that.
So here's what I've found out, and of course, right now I'm not seeing the feed on Facebook yet. Is that there it is? That I have to make in order for it to work for me. Now, this is not on a desktop, but on my iPad. The only way that I can get it to come up is if I put it on full screen, and now I can start to read what people say on the bottom.
Okay.
That's the only way I can see it, is if the video is at full screen and I'm actually watching on the live page.
Well, I've got like 8 monitors. I think I'm maxed out on what I can watch. I do have my iPad. What is that? The little one? The mini. I have the iPad Mini, the only Apple device I own, and I got it because it's awesome with my Mavic Pro, my drone. Mm-hmm. So that's what I use it for. It would be good if I had it up here. Just I would lose track of. As you said, it's going to be the straw that broke my back.
Right.
All right. You ready?
I am. I think I'm good to go.
All right. All right. It's JPEG photo review. Photo review, show number 15. We're going to be at a year and a half before long.
Yeah.
15. So we do these once a month. AD and I review photos submitted to our 2 photo contest. That is the JPEG Raw group and then the JPEG Raw Beginners group. We review images from both. If you want to enter, you can go to either one of those groups. The album's always posted at the top. Or you can go to our website, jpegtheraw.com. And there's a link there. I'll show you later on where you can go and you can enter that way. I know Willie Ford has entered that way before. It's a way to enter if if you don't not in Facebook that often, or maybe you're not in Facebook at all. I know some people who aren't in Facebook at all. So you can do it either way. We do it every month. Tonight we're going to go over the July images, July 2017. All right.
Yeah, we had a question already, Mike, out in Alicia was wondering, I hope I pronounced it right, where we can watch the Facebook or the live thing on YouTube, and I suggested jpeg2raw.com/live because that's the YouTube feed, correct?
It is. So we're actually on YouTube. If you search
Yeah.
for JPEG2RAW on YouTube, you can go there. There's a chat there that I watch. But like you just mentioned, jpeg2raw.com/live is that same YouTube feed. It just has a separate chat.
You know, you know what you need to do is assign a subdomain on DreamHost, assign youtube.jpeg2raw.com, and then that way people can get to your channel, because your channel's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
Like your channel's name is Mike Howard, and
Yeah.
I had the hardest time to find it before. We need to get people there a lot easier that way.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Easy for me to remember, at least.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. But there's also, if you go to JPEG2RAW, there's a link that says YouTube if you want to go that way. But once you're there, you can go to the live link too. So multiple ways. Alicia, if I said her name right, can we enter in both groups? Yeah. So I mentioned that we had the Facebook group, JPEG2RAW Facebook group, and then we had the beginners group. I have no rule about who can enter which group. The beginners group was meant for if you're more of a beginner, you want to have a place where maybe people are around your same stage in your photograph life, and you want to go there and maybe feel a little more comfortable than in the other place. But anybody can join either one. I don't do any kind of test to do that. I would encourage the people who are more advanced to enter only in the more advanced ones, so that the beginners have a chance over there. Some of the beginners are already beyond what I can do, so I don't want to say that beginners aren't that good. There's some really good beginners out there, but we want to give the beginners a chance to get some feedback and to encourage them to keep entering. But yeah, Alicia, you can enter either one.
Yeah, we'll call you out, by the way. If you're in the beginners group and you're too good, we'll let you know.
Yep.
Don't worry. So,
like Willie Ford is fantastic, and
happy birthday, Willie, by the way. It's his birthday today.
Happy birthday. AD's birthday was earlier this week. Now Willie's is today. Scott Green.
It's Irish Guy Week. That's what it is.
Yeah. All right, you ready to get with the first photo? Let me find.
I think I am. I'm telling you, I got to call out most of these beginners this week, by the way. They look pretty good.
They do.
This is pretty good stuff, man.
I got to find the first beginner in my thing here. There we go. I got it. All right, so
my order is not the same as your order. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to put mine in yours order. I think that's...
So I got several things I got to do here. As we pull up this image, I need to find the person's name. This is Anders. Let me find his name.
Kronlund.
Holy moly, I got too many names here.
That's what I have. Anders Kronlund.
And he actually was the winner of the beginners group. I mentioned that.
Ah, nice.
All right, he says a scenic place in Norway called Torghatten. I don't know. It's a cave that runs through a small mountain. I was there last week. All photos from the trip can be, and he has a link to where you can see his photos. But that's Anders, and I believe it's his first time entering.
Yeah, cool. Well, lots to talk about here in this photo. Obviously, we have a very unique location. Anders, I don't know if you're from this area or not. I'm going to guilt by association of your name. Maybe you might be from here or close to there, and I'm sorry, and I apologize if you're not. That's my ignorance if you're not. But the reason why I say that is because I wouldn't have known this was a cave. That's the first thing with your photo. I think it's a neat kind of setup here, and I kind of get what you were going for. I see the little hoodoo down here at the bottom, the little a stone stack. For me, when I first saw the photo, I was like, oh, cool location. That was my first thought in my head. So that's cool. But immediately I started thinking of how I would shoot it differently, because I was like, well, there's like a lot of things going on in the image. So I have you have the cave walls kind of, and I didn't know it was a cave. I'm going to tell you right off. Wouldn't have known that.
Yeah.
So maybe I would have liked to seen maybe the top of the cave a little bit, maybe do a vertical pano where you shoot 3 or 4 shots, incrementing your camera upwards, and then you make a vertical pano so we could see all of that. You make a really wide image that way. For me, right now, the way the image stands, it's an interesting image. It looks like it was shot well. I think that's always important, that you're getting those parts right. It may be an HDR, it may not be. It's close to needing an HDR to get all the detail in the rocks. Maybe you accomplish that with just a nice camera which has a wide dynamic range. I know my Sonys will definitely pull in that much image information. So you didn't over process if it is an HDR, and I like that. But there's so much going on in the image for me, and we talk about this every single show. We do this. When you're in the beginner category, I have to make certain assumptions. So I'm assuming you're bringing your image to me because you might be stuck, or you might just be wondering, like, what should I do here? I'm not expecting you to bring it to me for validation. When we go to the regular group, usually people want validation. Am I on the right track? Am I doing the right thing? I've been trying some cool things. That's kind of the regular crowd. But when I look at beginners, I think technical, I think composition and things like that. And so for me, for this image, like, you got the little rock things going on, you got the rock walls, you got the big overlook of the bay out there with the islands. There's so much going on, man. There's like 10 photos here. So when you're out there shooting, try to break it up into individual. You had an opportunity to take many photos here, maybe 5 or 6 different photos, depending on all this subject matter. And maybe you took those too. That could be very well, and you just weren't sure about this image. I think it's unique. I think it's interesting, but I don't think that it's narrowed down enough for me as far as subject matter goes. Okay. I probably, if I was going to show that it was a cave and it was high up, I'd make sure I saw the top of the cave so I can identify it as a cave. Right. I probably wouldn't have put the stone stack in there because that shows that people were there. And this has more impact, I think, as unless you're going to put something in it with context with a person, I think it has more impact as a remote, like, how did he get up here? That's what I want to think when I see it. So, but I see a stone stack. I realize, this is obviously a well-traveled location. People have been there. They've stacked stones. There's other things going around in the foreground. So think minimizing. And if you're from this area, what I was getting at is that you can go back here and practice. You can practice all of these things and bring more of these images, and we can talk about them. But I think this image, it's well processed, well taken. I think it just needs to as far as your composition and your positioning and maybe a few extra new techniques such as a vertical pano could have made it a more interesting composition with a better storyline rather than just everything. We have a tendency when we go someplace, it's like, how do I get it all in the shot?
Well, I think he might, I don't want to say something that he's not, but I know me,
sure.
You probably went to the spot, you saw just absolutely, gorgeous scene. And you're like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. Yep. I need to record it and share it.
Yep.
And you're overwhelmed by the scene. And I am horrible with patience. And it's one where I would need to slow down and think it through, have my inner AD voice going, and then do some of those things. Yeah.
Well, if you notice the top photographers when they go someplace, if you got to look at their catalog, because they don't take, one of the biggest mistakes when you watch your favorite photographer, no matter who it is, or you follow them on social media, you're seeing 0.00000001% of their photos. They're out there taking they're learning too. I mean, any professional photographer out there today is still learning. Sure, they have their moments when they're on camera, they're doing behind the scenes work where they're going for that one shot. But you know what? They have the times too where they all go out and they learn and they take many different shots and going through their catalog like that too. So don't be afraid to try many different angles, and it's okay to take a shot like this. Absolutely nothing wrong with capturing the whole thing and then getting home and saying, all right, I'm going to learn from what I did here and learn to look around the image and see maybe some things that if I go back, I could try this and I could maybe do this. And I've looked over the shoulder at amazing photographers' work. We talked about the trip here in the last show, and I was with 3 amazing photographers, and all 3 of them, I'm seeing their images now pop up in my feed, and it's amazing to me. I knew where we were at these locations, and in my brain, I'm going, wow, look at all this, look at that. And I love big scenes. And they were focusing in and finding these amazing patterns and little microverses and things. And it just, the images were much more powerful that way. And I did some of that myself, but I'm just saying, when you first get to a location, there's that big, like you said, I got to capture it all. Get it all. Give me
right now.
2mm lens. I want everything, so yeah. And so just be wary of that. And any image is a good image as long as you learn from it. Even the #1 image in your catalog, as long as you still learn something from it, that makes it a great image. So.
Exactly. Another point of reference is even the most elite athletes. Think of Michael Phelps. They practice all the time.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's a stigma, right, in photography because of film in the old days. You must get your equipment. You must learn your equipment. You must take it out, and every photo you take must be perfect.
Yeah, because
that's a lie.
It's money. Every shot is money.
Right. And I was talking with a friend of mine about this big camera I have back here on the stand. It's just next to my mic there. That's a big 4x5 or whatever. It's a large format camera, and they carried that thing around and did news photography with that thing. And I'm thinking, you got to load these big plates in the back, and yeah, it was a one-shot deal. But they practiced in other ways too, and so you just didn't see that. And I think the consumer got cameras with film and went, well, no one taught me how to practice, so I got to go out and do the real thing. And that carried over to digital. But now we have this wonderful learning. We can learn with our cameras in our hands. So, yes, practice, 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 practice. Go to YouTube, look up John Free, and learn. He's the man. So
he's the man. All right, up next is somebody who submits on a regular basis. It's Thomas Sandlin.
Thomas
Sandlin.
All right. So for his image, I have this lovely flower. Yes, I'm actually seeing it there and here at the same time. Awesome. I don't have a lot of camera information, by the way, on this stuff, so I don't know.
He says 1855 zoom, 1/800th of a second at ISO 200.
Okay.
That's the information I have.
What was the shutter speed again, Mike?
1/80th. I might have said 1/800th. 1/80th of a second.
1/80th, and the lens was I'm sorry.
18-55. He does not say shutter speed. Aperture, but he does say ISO 200.
Okay, so first off, if your camera beginners, now we're talking beginners again, so bear with me, regulars, because I know you guys all know this. So very first thing, why ISO 200 would be my question. So we have a rule, focal length. If you put a 1 over the top of it, whatever your focal length is at, that can be your shutter speed and still get a nice steady shot if it's a still image like a flower or something like that. So the shutter speed at 1/80th and a lens that's 18-55, it's still, you're giving yourself a lot of headroom there where you could have gone to ISO 100 and maybe cut that down to 1/60th of a second, still been plenty fast enough, I would believe. And you would have not run into any sort of noise or anything like that. We always want to shoot at the best ISO we possibly can, unless you're trying to add noise to an image.
One thing I don't know from I don't know what camera he's shooting with. Some cameras, I know some of my older Nikons, 200 was as low as they went.
Right, and I was going to mention that too. Yeah, that's why I said if that's, if ISO 200 is as low as you can go, that's fine. You did fine there. And as far as the shutter speed goes, and that's fine too. You can go as fast as you want, as long as you can keep your ISO as close to 100 as possible, just so you don't add any noise. Now, there's situations where we got to bump our ISO a little bit and test our cameras, for that. We're going to see an image here in a second where we're going to talk a little bit about a noise. I'm going to share a little tip with you there too, Mike.
Okay.
So let's talk about composition of the image. I think I've talked about flowers. We've seen some macro images. This must have been shot at like pretty big aperture. If he didn't focus stack, and I got to believe it was probably he shot this at 55 millimeter. You don't have that information, correct? You just have
I just know the lens was an 18 to 55 zoom, and I don't know the aperture that he shot it at.
I guess my question in the long run would be, and things that I need to know when you beginners are submitting, if you'd like to learn more, and I can only go so far and make assumptions, and that always doesn't connect with learning. Mm-hmm. The more you communicate with me about your image, technically, and what you did in post, then I can give you tips, because it's my belief, looking at and you guys are really testing me on this stuff, and today I might get it wrong, so when I look at the image, essentially it looks to me like you probably shot it at 55 millimeters with a lens all the way out at a fairly high f-stop, I would think, because the depth of focus is pretty deep here. I'm seeing it in focus from the front of the center of the flower almost back to the leaves. I mean, that's pretty deep when you're doing macro stuff. Now, the other thing is you could have cropped this way down. That could be the other thing, right?
Right.
You could have been farther back than we think, which would increase that, because as you move your camera farther away, your depth of focus gets deeper. So then you could have cropped this. And so if you cropped it, my question is, why did you crop it? Did you crop it for Instagram to keep it square? It's a very targeted photo, and my suggestion would be to give the photo a little room to breathe, give the flower some negative space that pushes you to the flower. So I always try to think of flowers as portraits, like they're people. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't mean you have to shoot it in portrait, but you can shoot it like a portrait, which means you want to include some background there to give the story a little, or the photo a little story or a little interest. So here it's very tight, it's very close up, and it's very matter of fact, being that there's no space around the outsides at all that's lending. So the whole flower is kind of in the photo, just screaming everywhere in the frame, and I really don't know where to look. So it would be my suggestion that that you maybe, if you did crop it, bring some of that space back, use the rule of thirds in your composition, and give it some negative space with that beautiful bokeh. You got some bokeh back there that looks great. Mm-hmm. And then let us see that image and see if that's the case. Otherwise, without that other information, I really can't, I don't know.
Well, I was also going to comment about, Thomas, whenever you're bringing this into the computer and editing, I don't think he has Lightroom. I can't remember what it is he has, but I'm sure whatever program he has, there's some kind of histogram on there.
Sure.
And watch your histogram and look to see if it's the exposure is where you want it to be. For me, this one looks a little underexposed.
Right.
And I bet if you pull up a histogram, it's far to the left.
It is. It's leaning in the left thirds. We mostly are showing the whole histogram stops at middle exposure, right in the middle line of the histogram. So it's all lower. And you could really make the image pop. I mean, composition aside, you can make the flower pop by moving the slider for your exposure. Like I think I just bumped it one stop, and the flower just came to life. A little bit of contrast in there, and suddenly we have a very rich. I can share this with you and show you where we're going to do that anyway. So let me just put it on my Lightroom screen here so Mike can see that.
I'm completely ready for you yet, so.
Oh, darn it!
Just give me a second.
Darn
here.
it!
Where
all
is
sorts
that?
of editing tonight. There's going to be in your video.
There we go. Okay, I got you now.
You got me. All
Yep.
right. Okay. So basically all I did here. Now I know, like you said, you're in, you might not have Lightroom, which is okay. If you don't, that's fine. But these suggestions will carry over to other to other systems. So all I did was, I'm going to open up the develop panel over here, is I just took the exposure here, which is on the panel, and I just bumped the exposure up by one stop just about. And then I boosted the contrast up to about 60, and that just gave the image a lot more pop to it. Now, the other thing you could do, which is very interesting, and I love doing things live just to see what the results will be.
Me too.
But if you have a program that has, and by the way, if you don't have a photo editor, go get Luminar for free right now for the PC and use it, right? And click the auto button to see what it does to the image. And the auto button is like free information, like how to process your photos a little better.
And then you can always change it from there.
Right. And that's a great tip, is to hit the auto button and then sweeten it to taste, rather than, like, a lot of people hit the auto button, they're like, oh, I don't like that. And they're like, I'll undo that. Well, no, don't undo it. Learn the adjustments. So when I hit that, we automatically got a +2 in the exposure, which I feel is a little hot for this image, especially because it's got a lot of red. If I pull it back to, say, 1.9, it starts to come back into play a little bit more. And you can kind of tweak these settings, and then you're learning what all these things do to your images too. So I'll just keep that in mind if you're, when you're working with an image like this. And yeah, Mike, that's an excellent tip too, just for basic processing.
Yeah, and for the beginners, the histogram gives you a lot of information. It's not, every image won't always need to look the same. You're not always going to need something that's perfectly even, across the histogram. But it tells you, from left is dark, from right is light, and a lot of times if you don't have at least part of that graph touching one side or the other, or both sides actually, or if it's leaning too far, like AD's just been showing us as he goes from one side to the other, you can tell that the exposure's off.
Yeah, and one of the things that I learned early on is, the reason why I like Lightroom, and Lightroom, Photoshop, we say it all the time, $9.99 a month. Is your photography worth $9.99 a month? The one thing that I really like about Lightroom is I can grab a hold of the actual histogram. I never touch the sliders. I grab a hold of the histogram and I move that around. And what I like about that is I kind of have some basic adjustments. I'll look at these little lines here, and I know it's going to be tough to see this on Facebook and on YouTube right now, but when Mike releases this video, you'll be able to see it clearer.
Full screen too.
Yeah, right, exactly. So basically, you look at the histogram, and your darks are all the way over here on the left, and your lights are all the way over here on your right. And then pinned next to that, you have highlights, and then pinned next to the dark, you have shadows, and in the middle, you have your exposure. So what I usually look for is the shape of the histogram. If it's this nice double camelback sort of thing going on, a lot of times all that's needed is to move the exposure over, and you balance this out. Now, if I want more contrast, it's almost like an EQ on a music system. If you want a real punchy sound, you bring up the lows, you bring up the highs, you get a nice punchy sound. Wow, light is exactly the same way. So watch basically as I move these over, if I do the contrast, see how it spreads the humps out.
Yeah.
So basically, when you learn to manipulate this histogram, it's interesting when you learn the histogram, like if you learn waveforms in music, you can really learn to edit with surgical precision. And then once you have that down, then you can start being like creative with it. We start learning about other things like HSL adjustments and toning and using split tones and things like that, and how we control the color of our shadows and the color of our highlights. And that's when we become more artistic with our images. But this is just basic everyday processing. And when you do something like this, you notice as I make these adjustments and I wrangle this image in to get this kind of double peak thing going on. I probably pull the shadows back a little bit. Actually, it looks like we might be a little hot. So let's do that. Let's move the whites forward a little bit. We'll kind of get it balanced. And then you might notice that the reds are kind of really punching you in the face. and you pull your saturation back a little bit or pull your vibrance back a little bit, and you can kind of get it back into a realistic looking image. That's just basic color processing. So generally, I never touch these sliders. I'm always moving these sections around. And then there's two indicators.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. As long as we're not doing a Lightroom tutorial, but as long as you're there.
Right. So this is usually on all editing programs. These are clipping indicators. So when you turn them on, they can show you when a color is what we call out of gamut, which means that it will not have any definition to it when it's printed. So it's okay sometimes to have some shadows that are dark and out of gamut. They'll just, what it's saying to me here when it lights up with this blue is it's saying the color right next to it and this color will not be different when people view this on a calibrated monitor or when it's in print. So generally when we're manhandling our images like this, we want to make sure that we adjust them so those highlights are almost always all gone, because we don't want those blotches to show up in there. And the same thing can happen on the top end. If I push this to the top end and I have that on, you can see this red pop up over here. Watch it, you'll see it go away. There it is, it's popping in and out. That shows me that we're losing definition in the highlights. Now I'll tell you where this comes out a lot is if you're a waterfall, long exposure photographer, you will see that water is very difficult not to blow out when you're doing that. So you'll learn to make adjustments. Usually we adjust the highlights to pull it back first and then pull back the whites as a very last resort. So you can actually push the highlights, as you can see, all the way up. But the highlights, generally when you pull highlights back, they'll preserve any sort of detail in the whites without destroying them or bringing them down away from complete whiteness there too. So black does the same thing.
And we're working with a JPEG image here because we got it right off of Facebook. But you know, Thomas might have taken this in RAW. If you take it in RAW and you edit it in RAW, you're generally going to have more latitude to recover some of those highlights and shadows.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Just thought I'd pull up an image here somewhere of something we can show you as a case in point. I'll do one of your things, Mike, where I look for an image and I can't find anything that I need to show anybody from this last. There we go. All right, let's just go with that one. So here you can see this image. This is a RAW file. I basically got the exposure in the camera. I matrix metered this, so it metered the whole scene and gave me a balanced light. And I put it on 0, did all the stuff that you do when you're taking the photo. And I got a fairly balanced histogram here. If I go over and turn some of this stuff on, you'll see there's some dark over here in the corner. That means that shadow basically has no definition in there. So I might not worry about that. But what I would worry about is whether or not I had water that was out of gamut and basically losing definition. I want to see the movement of the water. You can see up here that all of that red that's in there. And if I turn that off, it's just pure white. There's nothing there. But if I pull this back and I get away from that, you can see suddenly the definition starts to appear in that water. And that, it might seem like a small thing, but in a scene where this was more prominent, maybe I cropped it out so that is the scene, you would definitely see a difference between having that nice defined water there and having it just show up as a white blob.
Right. I ran into it a lot when I was taking sports photos, and one team was wearing a white jersey, and and you'd have some of the white shirts sometimes you'd blow out. And so, by doing what you just did, by pulling that back, you could recover those highlights generally and get some of the texture of the shirt. And it does make a difference. That little bit of change can make a big difference.
Very cool. All right, I'm going to unshare my screen now.
All right.
You always get that.
We're back to us.
Look at you go.
All right, you ready to go to the next image?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, this one, and hold on, Alicia, I'll get your name here in a second. Nope, that's the wrong name.
Weirmere. I think it's right there on her. Isn't it the watermark? Weirmere.
I'm hoping I have the name in my list.
Alicia's with us, I think, out in Facebook, or she moved over
For some
to.
reason I have Alicia May
Huh.
like 3
Oh
times in
yeah.
here.
Maybe it's her middle name. Maybe that's what she goes by.
All right, hold on, Alicia. I'm going to get your name into this list so we can have it. Just going to take me a second.
I'm actually not on YouTube, so I can't help you.
That's
I'd
fine.
love to help.
I got it.
Yep.
There we go. Yeah, no, I saw her out there earlier. All right, so this is Alicia's shot. She said this shot is from the second wedding I have shot. I initially shot this wider, but later cropped it tighter in post. I tried to line the bride up on the left 1/3. Their eyes are roughly on the top of the 1/3 line, and the outside of the groom's arm is roughly on the right 1/3 line. So she did a good job of trying to place that inside the thirds.
Yep. Yep. Well, Alicia, it's well shot. I like the crop. I think you did a wonderful job with the composition. Obviously, you've probably seen the show, and we've talked about that, or you've been working on your composition. Wedding photos. I quit weddings a while back. I think maybe you have too, Mike.
I've never shot a wedding. I'm not going to.
Oh, good man. More power to you folks who can go out there and shoot them. To me, it takes me out of being comfortable with my camera, simply because of the pressure that's involved. And I don't know. I just never. I've shot a couple of weddings. They were great, but it was too pull my hair out for me.
High stress.
Yeah, high stress. And for me, I run to my camera as a soul calming kind of zone to get into, and not the other way around. So I think you did a wonderful job with the composition. So the fern that's coming out from the left is a little, like, the bottom one is perfect, and it's great to put your logo right there.
That's perfect.
Right? But the one that comes across her arm is not, that one you probably should have tried to work around that one. I know cropping after the fact, you're kind of trying to, this might be a rescue image, if that. But the thing I want to talk to you about, and by the way, excellent focus. You got, probably shot this at 5.6. I'm not sure. I don't know if I have do you have specs there?
No, she didn't put specs in there, so I don't know the specs.
Yeah, I don't have them either. But it looks like you had enough depth on the to get them in focus. His eyes seem to be in focus. Her eyelashes and veil are in focus. So great job there. Great, you've got that part of it down. The part that bothers me with this image is the moment. So photographing people is very difficult. And the winning photographers out there with people, have you ever had somebody take a photo of you and you'd be like, damn, I look good in that photo? Like,
I have never had that.
No, but I've had, like, Karen Hutton. We were in San Francisco, and we had dinner with Karen Hutton, and we're sitting in a restaurant, and I'm talking with my girlfriend. She took a picture of Danielle and I together, and it was amazing. And I'm like, I actually look acceptable in the photo. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, what the hell? How did she do that? Like, she's really good. Like,
she is good.
It all comes down to angle and being very matter of fact about the features of the person and being able to capture them when their features are at their best. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Right.
So for me, I really hope these folks aren't out there. They're out listening to me, because this is just a personal thing. But I probably would have wanted him to look more at her. His ear is kind of out there quite a ways. And if he had his head turned a little bit, I think that would have kind of pulled his ear in a little bit and not had it so out there. I like her expression that she's got going on, but it's him that he's not giving the look back to her. I'm not sure. His look is kind of, it just seems like it's not the moment yet.
Right.
It was a missed moment.
Maybe
and
if he
that's
was
the
turned a little
thing.
bit and looking up a little bit toward her.
Right, right. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too here, Mike. And I mean, execution wise, as far as technical part of the photo and the light and everything, perfect. The next thing you need to start focusing on, Alicia, here is the moment, getting that moment. Now, I'm sure the bride and groom are like, love it. They love it, right? But if you want to move from $600 to $1,200 a wedding to 10 grand a wedding, take my advice and run with it. Start looking at people and thinking about angles and their best side. That's the key.
Yeah.
And then using that, branching out with your poses and moments and things like that. And the best photographers, wow, they position themselves and they capture people at the perfect angle without any interaction with them at all. That's the thing that blows. I've seen photographers go out in the field doing like basically when they propose and they're doing an engagement shoot, and they just follow the people around, right? They don't give them anything. They're like, you guys just walk through the park and I'm gonna take your photo. And they come back with these amazing photos because they've studied the people, right? And they're looking at the angles that are their best. You know how people always say, take my best side. You're not kidding. There really is.
Yeah. Like for somebody like me who's overweight, you wouldn't want to shoot from underneath. You'd want to shoot from higher. You know, I don't know in this image, and Alicia is out there. I hope I'm saying your name right. Her now. Hope I'm saying your name right. Whether this was a pose shot or whether it was they were in their moment and you're just shooting them. Right. If it's posed, you have more more options. If it's not posed, I've never shot weddings, and I'm never going to, but I've shot sports, and you're often waiting for that moment. And I knew a moment was about to happen between the players or between a player and a parent or something like that. And I get ready and I try and get in a position that I can because the action's moving. And then sometimes as I think that moment's about to happen, I have to just bang the shutter away a few times,
Right.
And
situational awareness, right? Yeah.
And in that group, you're hoping one of those is going to make it. If it was a slower moment, you might be able to time it a little better.
Yeah, and so this looks like it's natural light, so you have a little bit of leeway there because you're probably, you're not waiting on a flash. Although I will tell you, flash units also, my Sony flash will fire 25 flashes right in a row if I want to hold the shutter button down when I'm shooting. It just does a strobe effect and it syncs it, high speed syncs it up with the shutter so that if I am trying to capture a moment like that, I can. I will tell you, there's that divisional line between posing people and allowing them just to do their thing and capture the moment that's a huge leap. I would highly suggest if you're new at weddings, practice a good way to pose people first. Don't just say, guys, do whatever you want and I'm going to film you unless you're really that good. And I think it takes a lot of practice. You better be out there with models every day, practicing, with them and their timing and everything like that too.
Well, and Alicia said this is her second wedding, right?
Yeah, second wedding.
You're well on your way. You're doing great. You're already thinking about the thirds and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And like AD said, the exposure is good. There's just a few tidbits there that AD had, and
the only takeaway I would give Mike here would be. Keep going, keep doing it because you're on the right track for sure. So,
we're looking forward to see wedding number 3. All right, up next is I thought this was a new person, but it is not. This is Kevin Rivas. There's his name. He's entered before.
Yes.
And he says, I was at the beach about a week ago and decided to have some fun taking candid photos while walking around. And here you go. Here's your spec. Shot at 1/500 of a second, f4, ISO 6400 at 110 millimeters. I saw the family trio taking a selfie and decided to capture them in the right thirds with a background on the left to add perspective. In post, I wanted to try something different and transition from white to black in order to, I guess he meant from color to black, to capture the shining family selfie they were about to take.
Yeah.
What is it? So every time I look at this, I think that guy is some kind of space guy with his
He's a
glasses.
robot.
I can't tell what he's wearing on his face.
I got one suggestion for Kevin.
Okay.
Besides taking that light pole out that's on the content aware of the light pole that's on the left, please, because it's opposing your people, and you don't want something in competition here. You had all that blank space, and then you got this divisional white light post that's sticking up. Easily content aware, remove that. But I will tell you, in this situation, and this is going to be easy for me to say, and if you're out there, Kevin, you're probably like, yeah, easy for you to say. You're going to say that to me, I'm sure. Hit the dirt, man. If you would have jumped down into the sand and taken this from a low angle, all you would have seen is these people taking their selfie just like you have it, with beautiful shot. The camera would not have been in the guy's eyeballs, so we could have seen his face. Mm-hmm. And your background would not have had houses in it. It would have just had the beach. And that would have been the defining difference in this image. Your post-processing's awesome here. I love the black and white. I love the decisive moment. You captured the right timing. It's just the wrong angle. Mm. So don't be the lazy photographer. Hit the deck and try and think about those angles, because a lower angle here would have been the winner for sure. Yep, that's all, and that's all I had for this image. It's beautiful otherwise, but yeah, I agree, Mike. I look at it and I'm like, is that RoboCop? RoboCop is on the beach. So,
all right, up next, and this is the last one from our beginners group. This is Jade Cook. Let me get his name. There we go. Jade Cook. Jade says, and he's from Australia, so went looking for Aurora Australis, whatever. Instead was graced with a gorgeous view of the Milky Way. Thought it would be a bit too much of a stretch to link. Never mind. He's talking about something else. All right. Canon 5D, 16 millimeter, 30 seconds, f4, ISO 1000. Manual focus. I think he's saying broken tripod bracket. Long story. And 30 knot winds.
Oh, jeez. All right. Okay. Well, can I screen share?
Yeah.
All right.
Let me get that ready again.
Say when.
Oh, I'm ready now.
Oh man, you are on it. All right. Start. There we go. All right. Every time I lose your window, I hate that. Why do I gotta lose? I want to see Mike and see what he's doing. Why do I? Oh well, I don't know where it is.
I'm making faces at you.
All right, it went there somewhere. All right. Okay. Jade, difficult subject. The Milky Way, everybody shoots it. Everybody thinks they can shoot it, but then finds out how difficult it really is. You got a great moment here. You actually got a meteorite that's going through the scene. And the reason why I know it's a meteorite is because, and people often say, look, I captured these like 6 meteorites. Look at them go. And they're just planes. Or they're the space station flying across. The way you can tell is that if you look at his image here, this little guy right here, it looks silvery. It doesn't look like a ... pattern. Planes all have flashing lights on them, so when you take a long exposure, they kind of make a ... So you see like a Morse code look. This was definitely a meteor. So he caught a meteor going right through here. That's a beautiful moment to capture. I can't zoom in enough, but it does look like his focus was a tad bit off here. And that's the toughest part about shooting night images. It takes forever to figure out. And the biggest tip that I tell people is do not go by the infinity symbol on your lens. Use manual focus only, no steady shot, no optical steady, anything like that. Use a tripod, obviously. And find your infinity on your lens before you go out to shoot the Milky Way. So during the day, go out where it's nice bright sunlight, look at something through your lens that's way far away, over 150 feet to 200 feet, and focus manually until you've got it perfectly tight. And I mean, take a picture, put it in Lightroom, make sure it's tight. Right, zoom in. And once you've got that, put a piece of masking tape or use a Sharpie marker if you want to do it permanently, but put a piece of masking tape over the focus ring and then the actual lens itself, and put a mark between those two, and then cut the tape. That way, when you're out in the field, you're in the dark, you can't use your viewfinder to really see it clearly. Even live viewfinders don't work well in the dark. to get focus. You can't use autofocus, obviously.
Right.
And seeing through a viewfinder, a lot of people don't adjust their diopter, so they're not getting true focus. One of the other tips is make sure your diopter is focused on your camera. And the way that you do that is you put your lens cap on your lens, you look into your viewfinder, and there's a little dial on the side of your viewfinder, and you turn on the display so you can see the writing on the inside of your viewfinder, and you move the little dial until the writing is jet perfect clear. Then you know your diopter is perfectly focused for your eyes.
That's a great tip. I never knew to do that.
Right. And then when you go outside and you're doing manual focus, I had a student who I told this to, and he came back the next day and he was like, I am a brand new photographer. I didn't realize that this stuff was, I was doing the best I could and didn't realize it was out of focus like what I was seeing. So diopter adjustment, it's on every camera. Usually most all DSLRs have it. Make sure you adjust that first and do it with a cap on, because a lot of people try to do it and look through the lens, and I'm like, well, how do you know if the lens is in focus, or if, look at the lettering on the inside. That's a dead giveaway.
I don't manually focus very often, but I've not done it the way you just mentioned. I need to go and do that.
So I do all the time, and I do, if I do night photography, I definitely have to do manual focusing, but I also mark all of my lenses with infinity during the daytime, because at nighttime there's so many problems. First of all, you can't half the time you can't see what you're doing, and carry a little light with you, or a lamp or something, so you can at least get that down. But even still, looking through the viewfinder and trying to focus on stars in the dark is very difficult. Make it easy on yourself. Mark infinity on your lens, and you're good to go. The thing I noticed with this image, you did some nice processing here. You've obviously been doing some learning there. You did some great work there. One suggestion I would make is make sure that you are hitting up the #1 problem with Milky Way images, which is chromatic noise. So if you are in Lightroom and you come down to the detail box or whatever software that you're using, if you look right in here in the Milky Way, and I'm not sure you're going to see this on the broadcast, but you will see it when Mike does the full screen in the release, there is a lot of what they call chromatic noise, and that's usually shows up as magenta and green blotches, and I'm seeing them everywhere here in the image. So if you can't see them, look very close, and let me do 2x, because it doesn't matter what this looks like really to you. It's so you can see the noise itself. So there we're really zoomed in. If you look right here, you can see green, and then here is magenta, and then green. It's blotchy. Watch what happens when I move just the noise reduction color slider over. I'm not going to touch the luminance at all for this. Watch the color. Boom. Fixed. That's it. I moved it over.
You went all the way to 100%.
100%. Yeah. It does not change the image one bit. It just removes those blotches from the image. It's that good. And now you have a very clean Milky Way image that doesn't have those blotches. So let's put them back so you can see them come back and then go away. Here they are back. All right, so you can see the blotchy green and magenta, and then here it is when I get rid of it. Here it is back.
It's very, very subtle.
Very subtle,
yeah.
But when you print it, if you print this, it won't be subtle anymore. So that's the thing. Always remember focus and noise. It's a little long for an exposure of the Milky Way. 30 seconds is really pushing it to the point where stars are going to be moving at that point. You really want to, let's make some suggestions. You guys want to get into this if you love to do this sort of thing. An f2.8 lens you have to have a lens that shoots that wide open of an aperture. Don't try to shoot the Milky Way at f4 or f5.6, because you're going to jack your ISO and you're going to run 30-second exposures, and you're going to have so much noise. It's just going to be, the Rokinon 2.8 14mm lens is like a very staple manual lens that's cheap and very sharp for astrophotography. Almost everybody, I think, that's out there that knows me tonight and has been out shooting with me has one of them. They run like $299, I think, and it's a 2.8 lens. They're very sharp. And that's going to allow you to get a 20 to 25 second exposure, which is going to minimize the the stars moving, because the Earth is moving.
Right.
And in 30 seconds of light, those stars actually move and they cause blurries, and we don't want to see that. We want them as tack sharp as possible so you can get the best looking color as possible. So you usually try to keep it 20 seconds. 25 is pushing it. I try to keep my exposures to 20 seconds, f2.8, and then you could usually push your ISO to about 800 to 1600 depending on the camera. So like a Sony A7S, you can push it way farther because it's a superior camera when it comes to noise. But most cameras, for beginners, you're going to want to stay usually under ISO 1200, I would say, is probably the max.
Isn't there a rule of amount of time, the exposure to the aperture or something like that when shooting stars?
Right, but see, when you're shooting, but yeah, so if you, I'm not sure why there's a rule, because night is night, and generally,
well, I think it had to do with the stars moving.
Yeah, it's just keep your exposure time under 20 seconds.
Okay.
That's the rule. All other adjustments. So here's the deal. Put your exposure at 20 seconds, your ISO at 1200, and then it'll dictate what you have to have for your f-stop. And it is f2.8. I can tell you, because I've been out there and been frustrated lots of times. So that'll get you go out on YouTube, look it up, how to photograph the Milky Way, and you can get everybody will pass along that same information to you as well. Yep. So,
all right.
Yeah, good image though. I like it. Keep going.
All right, so let me get us ready for you coming back, right?
Yeah, I think I might be able to hit that button.
Well, that was the last one in the beginners group. So
yeah,
we're going to only go through a few over here in the regulars group because we're already an hour in.
Right, and the focus is on the beginners, because that's the folks that are in the regular group. You guys are, I'd see your images every week, and there isn't much you need from me that you're not already learning. So, but we'll key in on a couple here, Mike, that we want to talk about.
Yep.
There's some exceptional images this week.
Well, do you want to? You see my order in the list. Do you want to?
No, my order's all screwed up. So you.
Well, do you have the PowerPoint thing or whatever it is?
I do not.
Oh.
I'm stuck in Lightroom.
Do you want to tell me an image you want to do?
Sure.
I know Millen. Let's find one of Millen's shots. Uh-oh. Hold on.
Did I not get all the images back in? No, his image is in here.
No, it's something else.
Oh, on your end.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we're gonna go here, and we'll do. How about this one from Millen?
Yeah. All right. I have that one here, so I can take a look at that. I'm sorry if I keep looking away. I'm actually looking at Lightroom over here. So if you guys think I'm like not paying attention during the entire broadcast.
There was a question out in chat. Let me answer this question before we go on. So, what lens did he say you used for this? Did you say, maybe he said what lens you use, AD, not what lens Jade used. Jade used the 16 millimeter lens. What lens did you say to use?
So the suggested lens, there's two. Well, I use two lenses. I used to use a 15 millimeter 2.8 diagonal fisheye, which was a wonderful lens from Sigma. And then when I moved away from the alpha converted lenses to just straight up E-mount lenses for my Sony, I now use a Zeiss Batis 18 millimeter 2.8. But I also, the one I recommend that works with all cameras is the Rokinon. It's Rokinon. Rokinon 14 millimeter f2.8 manual focus. They run around $299, $399, somewhere in there.
Not bad.
And it's not expensive, and it is absolutely tack sharp. It is a single use lens. I did play around doing some panos with it when I was out west. Kind of wish I would have used a little bit like not a fisheye lens, so I could have had more detail, because everything in a fisheye is like 1,000 miles away.
Right.
But it works extremely well for capturing vertical panos of the Milky Way, or just a single shot of the Milky Way in one one shot will, that 14 millimeter is quite a wide, I think it's 129 or 130 degrees of, so it's pretty nice.
Very
So
good.
yeah.
All right, so this is Millen. I think I put his name up there earlier, but I'll do it again.
Yeah.
Millen, and he always does a great job of giving us a lot of information here. I'll give you the specs, and then we can come back and give you more information if you want.
Cool.
1/30th of a second at f11, ISO 100. In summer is here, very hot days when the temperature hits 41 degrees Celsius. I don't know how to convert that to
That's
Fahrenheit,
pretty warm.
but it sounds warm.
Yes.
When weather is. All right. This is.
That's
I guess
like
a park near his
95
place.
degrees, I think, our temperature. So
Yeah.
it's pretty warm.
And it's a church in the background.
Yeah. It's a good street shot. I think it's I'm not sure what the subject matter is I like the fountain leading to the church. I think that's kind of cool. I think I probably would have made it more of a leading line kind of composition here. And for me, and I don't know if you played with this at all, Millen. I'm an anti-social photographer. I don't like to put people in my photos, and I've put people in my photos a few times and really enjoyed it and really liked it. But people milling about and kind of some stuff, it's got to have like an interest to kind of that. So I'm not sure if the story is just folks hanging out in the park, or if you wanted to just capture an area of your home and that sort of stuff, which is cool as well. And the next step of that is if you're in this area, is to now start playing with different compositions, maybe trying to get some story behind the people there, so we get a little bit of a flavor of are these local people, are these tourists, that sort of thing. So you have to kind of show them doing something that kind of says they're a tourist or says they're a local person, maybe selling something or doing something like that. Or if your subject matter is none of that and it's the fountain and the church, then I would suggest maybe getting an ND filter and doing a long exposure. And a great way to get people out of a shot is to plant your tripod or plant your butt somewhere with your camera and not move for about 15 minutes and take a shot every 3 or 4 minutes, the same exact shot for 15 minutes. And you'll end up with like 20 some shot. I don't know how my math is here, but you'll end up with a bunch of shots, right? You'll end up with a bunch of shots. And the thing is, people move, which is, they usually move. And so you'll be able to put all those layers in Photoshop, and you'll be able to erase people out of one area, and you'll have one photo with nobody in it, which is really awesome. I do that quite a bit. I did a lot of things when I was out west with, I would have a tree moving in the foreground, and I was trying to do a long exposure shot. And instead of a person, I would have a tree moving from the wind. And here I'm trying to get the smooth water of a waterfall, and I got this stupid tree doing this. And I'm like, I know the photo's going to look cool with the water, but then I'm going to have this tree like waving in my shot, right?
Yeah.
So what I did is I didn't move my camera. I did a long exposure shot for the water, and then I did a really fast, short exposure, didn't move the camera, for the tree. And then when I got home, I just put the two together in Photoshop. I made an image mask, and I just painted the water in nice and smooth where it was supposed to be, and I got the best of both worlds in one shot because the weather was not going to cooperate with me, so I just forced it to.
Yep.
And sometimes you got to do that with people. We have this little area that we have waterfalls, and it's very touristy, and whenever I take photographers there to shoot, they're always like frustrated. I'm like, look, learn to ninja shoot. You set yourself up, you get the in-between frames, and then you're going to edit that together when you get home. And they kind of learn a whole new thing, a whole new way of shooting by you kind of just have to shoot around people, or you've got to include them in some sort of interesting way. So for me, when I look at it's an interesting photo for the church or the mosque and all of that. I think that's cool. In the fountain, I like that. Looks a little long exposure in the fountain. But the people don't really do. I mean,
Right.
Mike, you tell me. Do the people really add?
No, they don't. They don't add anything.
And I think the foreground grass needs to go as well. Personally. Like I probably wouldn't have included that. I would have probably had it start at the edge of the fountain. I know it's hard to visualize because I'm not actually showing it to you, but I probably would have cropped it up from the bottom and just had the fountain leading to the church sort of thing.
For, you know, and I'm going to always defer to you, but for me, I didn't mind the grass so much because I liked the fact that it went to the two edges.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of led me down there. The people were what distracting for me. You know, both this lady in the red and then the dude way over here. Is several people, but the dude standing up in the blue shirt.
Yeah. The red is really and here's the thing, Millen, you didn't take a bad image. The lady wore red. She wore red to your image, and our eyes tend to go to that. Yeah. That's we're drawn to that. So, you may have been able to change the color of her shirt in post. And that's a possibility. If you're trying to save an image, if you went out and you were working for somebody and they needed a picture of this church and this is all you had, and you've got to create an image out of it, you could clone as many people out as possible. It would be a long process, but you could do it. What's neat is you've got things on the right-hand side that mirror things on the left, so there's a lot of copying and pasting you could do as a Photoshop master to get all those people out of there, but it's a lot of work rather than just, if you live there, go back and experiment, and if you're going to include people, they've got to be part of the photo more than just a puzzle part. Rather, they've got to be an integral part of the photo rather than just kind of a side dressing.
I think probably the easier way is what you mentioned first, is multi shots. That is fun to play with, just around the house.
Yep.
I've gotten the kids before, and you set up your tripod, you have them do one thing, and go change your clothes, come back to another, and you build a scene where the same kid's in the same person, doesn't have to be a kid, is in there, multiple times. That whole thing is a fun process of taking the shot and then combining it later, and it works not just for fun shots but for this here too.
Yeah, if you go to YouTube again and look up Multiplicity, that's the name
movie too.
Yes, so that's the type of photography that Mike is talking about, where we're not taking people out, but we're actually putting them in different positions. We were at the ghost town. One of the guys came out to meet us who lives out there, and he brought his daughter, and she dressed in period clothing for us at the ghost town, and we were in a little one-room schoolhouse, and I had her sit in different chairs doing different things in the schoolhouse, and then I edited them all together as a multiplicity shot for them. Yeah. So it came out really cool, and it was really weird too because it's the same person everywhere. So
yeah, it's a fun thing to do, and it works in reverse, like you were saying here too.
Yep.
All right, I want to do this next one because there's a good story, I think, behind it. This one here from Amber, who was out there in chat earlier. I don't know if she's still here now. Amber's Salat.
Yeah, you guys got to give us. You're making us work really hard here on the last names.
I'm just really bad at it. All right, she says 10 to 20 millimeter at 20 millimeter, f7.1. ISO 200 of a second. She says, this is her words, and I don't necessarily agree with her. This is not an impressive photo at all. I know we're supposed to show our best, and I have another to submit. She did submit another image. Let's see, I have another to submit that might be more pleasing to her. However, you guys say you want to know why, and this photo is all about the why. In 2013, something horrible happened to our family. The event is too private to share, so we're not going to go in there. And I don't know what it is. She hasn't told me. But life came to a grinding halt for a little while. Up until July 2013, we fished on the boat all the time, almost weekly. The fishing trip right here is the first time as a family we've been on the boat together and fished since that time. This was, and I hope will now be, a summer for us again. There you go. So you look at the girls here, I look at it and think, something happened, 4 years ago that made them not go out to the lake. It's something that they did all the time, and now this is their first trip back out there. So it was probably an emotional trip as they started out there on the lake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so be cruel to be kind here. I hate to be the bad guy. I'm always the bad guy. The guy, I have a little thing over here. In fact, until we found out, they got me this little thing. They call me the Velvet Sledgehammer. So I'll try to be as nice as I possibly can.
Sure.
I have to ask you, Mike.
Yeah.
Before you read that text, what did this photo mean to you? You can't answer that. You can't really answer that. Right. And that's my thing. Is I found interest in the photo without the backstory. To me, I just like the whole looking out over the lake in summertime, and I thought it was interesting that it was shot into the sun, which I like that as well. Mm-hmm. To me, it just screamed summertime to me.
And that was the theme for this group, by the way.
Right, and I don't want to belittle the backstory, because that's most important thing. And any photograph is what it means to the person who took it. Right. It doesn't matter what it means to anybody else. No matter what anybody says to you, it doesn't matter. So Amber, as far as that goes, you captured a beautiful moment here. Well taken as well. So I like the black and white. And it just, yes, it easily says that to me as far as, when you tell me the story. But to me, it signifies summer. To me, it fit into that category, as well as had personal meaning to you. So that's kind of like a double win. So while you may look at it and think it's nothing special, it actually has a special meaning in that, I think. I always had to be careful. I didn't have the backstory. I've been loving not actually looking at your slides, Mike, because I get to see one guy's got to be good cop, bad cop, right? Yeah. So I get to take the heat whenever I say something bad about a photo. But that's kind of my job. But with this image, I think Amber's kind of laying it onto herself here. I think it's a wonderful image. And where she doesn't think it's special, think it is special, because you covered the category very well and the moment at the same time, which is very difficult to do. So
yeah, she said it's not an impressive photo. I liked it. And when I generally see, when I look at a photo, I kind of make up my own story if I can't tell right away what they're doing. So I make up my own story. Right. And to be honest, now I don't remember what my story was, because now I've read hers and I've got a whole different story. Sure. But I like the image. Like you said, I like the fact that it was shot into the sun and how you get some of those rays coming across, which just screams summer to me. I mean, you're on the lake. Flare.
Yes.
Yeah, it just screams summer. So well done there, Amber.
Yep,
all right.
Very nice.
Let me get the next one. I don't know how many you want to do, but let me pull up the one that was our winner. I'll get the right one here. This one here.
Hey, that one I know. Yes.
And let me find the name.
It's Amanda Griggs.
Amanda Griggs. Do you know this person?
Yeah. I think we've either had her on or something.
I don't remember.
I think we've seen her photos before.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
You
know what?
Right.
No, I am wrong, because this is really funny. I had someone in the Arcanum. Her name was Amanda Briggs.
There you go.
With a B. So I apologize. No, this is completely new then.
And I'm not sure if she submitted before. She might have. I'm not sure. But this is Amanda's image. Let me find it here. She says, Pebble Beach in Crescent City, California. This morning was thick with fog. When it rolled out, it left the most brilliant sunset. Mm-hmm. And that's what she gives us. Yeah,
it's awesome. It's great. It's I like the positioning of the girl. I think it's different in that the girl is kind of, it's like so I can't tell, and it looks like the girl is walking towards us.
I was thinking she's walking away because of the footprints in the sand.
But she is walking away.
Yeah.
And you know what it is? It's if you look right at her feet.
Yeah.
Her feet look like they're turned the other way. But it isn't. She's lifting her foot up just as she's walking away. Now that I zoom in on it, I can see that. And again, this is we're looking at JPEGs. But yeah, I like that look to it. I think I probably would have moved her more in the third, but that's personal preference. There, she's kind of way out on the edge of the frame. We always have to be careful with any type of photo that we take, and there's a reason why those thirds are important, because if we think about printing the image, which we should always consider doing, There's also matting and framing that go along with that usually if someone wants to buy the image. And we have to be careful because by the time you mat a 1/4 inch in on each side of a printed image, suddenly this person is becoming, yeah, she's way out there. And so if we move to the 1/3, that gives us a nice balance there. Now she could go with like a large metal print of this, and it would, with no framing, and it would be great. So those are just old constraints. So printing has changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
Back in the day when we used to mat and hand mat and everything, we'd lose a 1/2 inch off our prints because you can't mat to the edge of the photo. You actually have to cover it up a little bit. So as long as you're not chopping someone's head off, you're usually all right. But yeah, it's this gorgeous image. I mean, it's definitely worth a win, I think.
I love the colors. I love the powerful sun coming through at the edge.
Yeah, I think that all of that works really well together. The color's good. The focus is on the girls, and there's a little bit of depth of field going on, so the rocks aren't too much. Probably one suggestion I would make again is get a little lower maybe here, and that would have. I don't know though about where she was at. There's a bunch of angles that you can play with. If she would have gone lower, we may have been able to get the horizon up a little higher, and that way we're not so close to the trick of any photo like this. I will tell you is trying to put all the lines where they're supposed to be. So while we don't see any lines in this image, the horizon should. So the beach doesn't fight with that sky, which the sky, no offense to Sky that day, but Sky was a little boring. The story is really on the beach, right?
Yeah, right.
So I would have put the horizon in the upper third. I would have probably taken her photo as she was a little closer to us, maybe as she was only at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 7 or 8 steps out rather than 15. So back a little closer, although I do love the curve of that as well. So it's hard to say without actually being there, but that's part of you're the photographer. You get to move. You're not stationary. And if you stay in one spot and you just snap multiple pictures of a moving scene, you're not doing it right. So move around and look at different angles. But I mean, technically, it's a beautiful photo. It's well taken as far as the processing and all of that goes. And yeah, the sun coming from the side, and it's definitely summer to me right there. End of summer.
And I tell you what, we need to see more images from Amber.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amber too.
Amanda.
But Amanda. We need to see both more images from Amanda.
Yeah, awesome
stuff.
All
right. Up next is, I'm going to do this one. This one here from, it's what? You randomness, you don't know what I'm going to pick next?
It's like pulling a slot machine. I'm all excited at what's going to come up next.
Well, if you have something specifically, let me know, because I know we're running long.
No, I think we're good.
This one's from Debbie Henry, and she says, family out in the evening on a hot July day.
Yeah, gorgeous image. I don't like the road, to be honest with you. The line on the road is just like really annoying. I might have cloned just the line out on the road. I know that's weird, but and the car is like, why is a car in there? I like the kids and I like the house and the fence and that beautiful grass in the background. I'm not about the car in the road, really. And this is personal preference.
Yeah.
It might have meant something more to Debbie, and that's fine. But for me, it's like the diagonal of the road, and it's just so much going on there. I got a road going on. I got kids with water and the beautiful backlit sun, and I got a Ford Mustang. It's like a ad for Ford Mustang or something. I don't know. The car's like
it could be actually, yeah.
Well, the car's coming in and just like kind of like, I'm here too, you know. It's like a photobomb of a car, and you've got this beautiful farmhouse. Move the kids over, give me the sun, the farmhouse, and that beautiful field. Even if they're like looking over the fence, or throw them over the fence and let them run through the field. I don't know, but I just think that it's to add the car just doesn't fit for me in this. And And I had a Mustang when I was 16 years old, a red one.
I
So
wanted one.
I have an association with, I had a 66 with a T-shift and the whole 9 yards. And during the summer, it was the car and it was the date car and, all of that stuff. But I don't know, for some reason, like the whole car isn't in it. It's kind of partially in it. There's an even number of subjects here. So we got the kids, 3, plus the car, 1. That's 4 subjects, which is the even number thing is always weird. And the fence pole is coming like right out of the hood of the car. I'm just thinking there might be more shots in her camera that better represent this scene, I think. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think the color and tone of it
It's really
is
good.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, that's killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's up there with sellable images. So call Ford up. They might be like, hell yeah, we love that you put our car in there. And then whatever I say doesn't really mean anything, does it? Because you're getting paid. So
Absolutely. All right, let's go to the next one. This one is from, hopefully he's still out there, Willie Ford.
Willie, happy birthday, Willie.
He says, I found this little jetty and boat on a private land beside a local lake. The lady that owns the land gave her permission to take photos all around the area, and myself and my daughter had a fun evening down at the lake shooting photos.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on in this image too, and I don't know where to look. Level your horizon, Willie. It's a little off. Lakes don't tilt. I'll just tell you that. As a landscape photographer, number one thing I look at is tilting water. It makes people feel uneasy, so don't do that. So always check that. I can tell you that the easy way to check it, I'm just zooming in, and I put the water. I scroll the thing up to the edge of the screen, which my screen is perfectly level always, and I can see that it's lower on the right-hand side and higher on the left. And that tilt, while it might be just a very little bit, people will look at the image and say, oh, it's a beautiful image, but they might not buy it simply because they feel some sort of weirdness about it, and they don't even know what it is. But that's what tilting an image does. It lends tension. We don't want any tension in your photo. If you're going for a fine art look here, those lines need to be perfect. And that's part of your border patrol and part of you as a photographer wanting it to be only the best. Other than that, there's a lot of subject matter. There's those beautiful pier, the old pier, it looks like, poles that were out there. We got the dock and the boat and the sunset and the beautiful colors. My eye tends to like get lost in what am I supposed to look at here? And it's one of those things where there might have been several scenes here for him to capture with this beautiful light rather than trying to put it all in one. So I might have thought more about maybe making this into a portrait image instead of a landscape image and featuring the dock and the boat and the sky, and that's it. And then it's a long exposure, fine art style image, and then maybe done something with the old pier pieces on the other side without the dock and the boat and all that stuff, and still kept the beautiful sky and all of that. It's just not fitting. It's a little lopsided on the frame with the boat and the pier things being over on the right, and then complete blank space on the left. So that gives us 3 quadrants to look at, which is not conducive to good composition and storytelling in your story. So your story should be 2 elements usually if they're balanced with each other: a negative space and then your subject. And also clean up your dust spots, my friend. I see them. I see dust spots like dead people. I see them. And there you have 3 or 4 of them on here that you can use the tools in Lightroom or whatever your but they're here. They're in your shot, unfortunately.
You mentioned that you always know your monitor's level. How do you know that?
Well, your monitors are pixel perfect. So you can turn your monitor on its side, but it's still
a straight line.
The Windows display is a straight line. So if I ever wonder, because I wonder a lot, because I've looked at things and there are optical illusions where a hill might be leaning down and a water line might be going the other way, and I have to assign myself that basically I took a bad shot at that point because I didn't take the time to figure out that in camera, and it can't be fixed otherwise. But I often will zoom in on the image and then move the image around. Let me show you what I'm talking about here,
Okay.
because I think you can get an idea. We'll just do it with Willie's image because he's a good sport.
I was also going to mention before we go to you, I keep one of these on a little level because sometimes I feel like my monitor is actually leaning.
Oh yeah, that could be too. Yeah, I actually all of my monitors kind of fit together. So if one of them's leaning, I know that I can see the lines on them aren't lining up the way they're supposed to. So
Yeah.
I usually can tell that way. But so if you just take an image, any image, and you want to see if the horizon is straight or not, zoom in on the image in Lightroom like that, and then just move the image down and look at your horizon, and then edge it up to the edge of the monitor, and you can see it's not level. See it right there? See how there's more over here on the right and less on the left? You got to look real close because I know you're.
Yeah. Yep. I see.
It's under the logo, but you and that little bit of tilt is, lakes don't tilt. They just don't do it. Otherwise there'd be no water in them. So, so you always want to make sure the angle thing was always, used back in the 60s and 70s to add tension or drama to an image that wasn't there. And it's not like a passé thing. It's actually just it's a tensioning thing. And this is not a tense image. This is a very calm, yeah, let me die here, right here. This is, so and then when I was talking about too, Mike, just a suggestion, and this won't probably look right if I just if I do it here real quick, but just Willie, this is what I meant as far as like subject matter here and why this might work in another look at it. But if you take this image and you bring it into this, and now you just see that, there's no more competition with those peer pieces over on the right. So we don't have like these three things that we're kind of looking at. It's a dock on a peaceful sunlit lake, and that's all there is to it. It's simple and beautiful, and I want it. I want to buy it. But if I look at something and I don't feel peace, I don't feel peaceful, and I realize I'm looking around, I won't look at it for very long. I'll look at it and go, yeah, that's a pretty image, and then it's it.
And you move on, yeah.
Right, but it's images that have staying power, that are simple and beautiful. They will pull you in. So the less subject matter, the more room for you there is in that photo. So just keep that in mind when you're framing things up.
And Willie says that lakes don't tilt. Maybe it was me and the wine.
Oh, it's always me, man. I'm with you there. Yeah. I often come back in my horizons. That's why I learned to do the trick, is because generally my horizon.
Uh-oh. You still there?
Unscreen sharing here. Mike, are you back with me yet, man?
Yep, we got you back. Yeah.
The crop tool does not like to be frozen for some reason on Skype. So,
all right. So we got. I know we're running long with this, and I'm fine with it, but I don't want to keep you too long. Let's do a few people that I think are new. I don't remember doing them before.
Okay.
This one here from Spencer Sullivan. Find Spencer's name. There we go, Spencer Sullivan. He says, Sand Hallow Reserve.
Nice.
When I think of summer, I think of the reserve. Before my wife and I got engaged, we spent a lot of time here swimming, boating, and cliff jumping. Starting in July, the clouds start gathering in most evenings, making beautiful sunsets. Yesterday, I was... Okay, something just came up. Hold on. All right, I'm back. Yesterday, I was walking along the beach and found this interesting rock. The way the moss hangs on the rock made me think a lot of a hula skirt. Shot with a Canon SD on a Rokinon.
Yes, Rokinon.
14 millimeter at f8 and ISO 200.
There it is, the Rokinon.
There it is.
So he proves that you can actually use it for landscaping
Yeah.
lens as well and do a nice job with it. And he did that here. I would have to ask Spencer if I don't know if he's out there or not. Maybe he's watching on YouTube or someplace. If this is an HDR image or a multiple exposure image, because I have a feeling that it is. And the reason why I asked, or if it's a long exposure, did he give you the exposure time, Mike?
He did not. Nope.
Okay. The water looks a little bit noisy to me. And by noisy, I mean fuzzy. And one of the things we have to be super careful of with water, especially ocean water or bay water or water that's got motion to it, is that if we're doing a long exposure, and I'm looking at the trees out here, and they kind of look like they're moving around and doing a lot of stuff. Do yourself a favor, do several different exposures, and then expose once for those trees out there so you can stop their movement. Unless you want to show that the wind is going crazy, and they're kind of a back thought, it seems to me, in this image. In fact, personally, I probably would have cloned them right to heck out if they're not going to be a major player here, because the rock is cool, and the water's cool, and the sky's cool, and we go back to that. Let's not put too many things fighting in the image for the star, right? Who's the star here? He said it was the rock, right? And it is. And the hula skirt. So I probably have shot this so that maybe that wasn't, those trees weren't there, or I would have maybe even just removed them. A little liberty there in doing that. You also have a pretty dark mountain on the right-hand side, which is also, it's actually working to your advantage. And I know this is going to sound weird after I just said remove the trees, but since he has the trees and he has the mountain, it kind of works as a triangle. So he has the three items there. But if you stare at this image for a long time, you'll find yourself going around in circles. And unfortunately, for me personally, and this is only me, and other people can look at this and decide what it does for them, I end up at the trees and I can't get away from them. I look at the other stuff and I go back to the trees. And whatever I look at, I'm at the trees. So that's the hardest part when you're doing these images. It's hard to do when you're in the field through the viewfinder. You have to really have no distractions and really get into the zone to see this stuff in the field. Quite often, I don't, and they get the hatchet when I get home, and I'm processing them in post. So I probably would have cloned the trees out. I would have lightened this mountains that are on the right that are very dark and contrasty, because contrast draws our eye. We want to keep the star of the show being the rock. Now, if you wanted to shoot this differently, you could have moved your body to the right a little bit, which would have put the rock, if you kept the rock right where it's at because it's in a perfect spot, it would have put the mountains in the background. It would have centered them up so that it was all that nice light purple with the sky instead of having and so you had that option of possibly moving that around. But I love the colors here. The aqua color of the water is gorgeous, and the sand color is killer. The rock is awesome, but the tree and that mountain in the background, I think, are the only things keeping this from being a winning image for sure. It definitely shows off summer. One thing I did want to mention, Mike, is I'm looking at his histogram right now. We talked about histograms tonight. Right. The histogram on this particular image is extremely flat. And what I mean by flat is if you look at the histogram, it looks like a mountain with a peak being right in the middle, which means the mid-tones are really prominent, and that usually makes for a flat image. So if I move the contrast a little bit, it spreads that out a little bit, and then the shot really looks like in the zones. I move the contrast over. If Spencer, if you're watching this and you have Lightroom, try moving your contrast only, just that on this image. For color, try moving it to like a +40 and see if you don't see the image really reach out and grab you at that point. But yeah, other than that, everything's there. It's got all the stuff. It's just a lot of times I see that there's extra things in the image that are, don't let these things get in your photos if they're not, helping out. So
very good. All right, we're going to do either 2 or 3 more images. I know later Millen's going to say something about the fact that he submitted 2. He's probably going to say I picked the wrong one. But Millen, we got so many I can't do all of them. So sorry if I picked the wrong one, the 2 you wanted me to do. Anyway, so this one is up. I think this is a new submitter. This one is, Kenny Robertson. And
nice.
he says, I finally took the family on vacation while visiting San Francisco. I was able to get this shot. This is got to be one of my favorites. I wasn't able to spend too much time there, but whatever. Shot this above people's heads on the side of a bank. Tamron 150 to 600. F8 1/600 of a second, 250 millimeters. ISO 400.
Cool.
And I got to imagine, Golden Gate Bridge, that's what that is, right?
Yep.
It's got to be one of the most photographed landmarks or whatever man-made creations there is. So getting something unique of that is almost impossible.
Yeah. And I like that he's over on the Treasure Island side.
Okay.
So he's not on the side that he's showing right now is where most people drive up there, and they shoot from on top of that hill right to the left there. You can see some people up there. That's usually loaded with people up there, and that's the famous night shot. That's where I shot from. I've shot from both sides, and it's not Treasure Island. It's it's the opposite side. I can't remember what it's called over there now. It's been a long time since 2 years since I've been to San Francisco. But I like the fact that he's not on the side where everybody shoots from. That's the cool thing I think I'm getting at here. It doesn't really matter what it's called. And I like the boat underneath. I think that's a cool added feature. The composition here is cool. I like that. And I think just the fact that it's different. The only suggestion I would make is just pay attention again to the histogram. It's a little on the faded side, so I'm seeing like almost no blacks at all in there. So I'm a fan of a more contrasty image.
Yeah.
To me, I also like faded film style images, but this was kind of not quite there yet, and it's also not quite the other way. So it's in the middle ground. So I just add a little bit of bottom end to the photo. Other than that, it's awesome. Good moment, and wonderful that it wasn't what I always see from everyone else. So,
in Lightroom, I generally like to have my blacks all at least touch the edge.
Yep, always.
Yeah.
Unless I'm going, like I have one preset called high tension fade out that I use for a lot of my abandoned scapes, and it has a specific curve to it that chops off the blacks like within like just a little bit before they get to the edge. But that's just for that look. It's like that's a specific look that I use on specific images, but 99.9% of everything else, especially landscapes that I shoot, I always try to make sure that the blacks are black and it's slid all the way over there. So
we're going to do 2 more. One is from somebody who hasn't submitted in a long time.
Okay.
This one is from Daryl Harrington.
Hey, Daryl.
And he used to submit all the time, but hasn't submitted in a while. This is Lake Moraine. This is Moraine Lake in the heart of the Canadian Rockies.
Yep, Banff National Park. Almost went to Banff.
And he says the white balance isn't off. The water is really turquoise. What color is that?
Turquoise?
Turquoise.
Yes.
Turquoise.
Aqua turquoise. Whoops. Knocking things over in my office.
He did Okay, that much. Okay, that's about all the information I have.
So if you type Banff National Park or Lake Moraine into Google, you will see many shots from this particular area. Now, big plus here to Daryl, you moved down. He says you had to do a little bit of climbing here. And to the left, what most people do is actually shoot this from the right, and they put the trees kind of in the lake. And I really like the fact that you moved that stuff over to the right to balance out the mountains. So I like the fact that we have the three big mountains out there. There's 4, 5, 6 of them, but the three main ones, I like that they kind of go against the three trees on this side, and you kind of have the rocks pointing towards the mountains. I think all of that ties in together. Yeah, this is glacial water, so it's very blue, very green, blue-green, and that is the actual color. He hasn't messed with that at all. All the photos that you will see, unless they're of a very low angle where you can't get the color, people come up here to this height so that you can get the color, because you can only see it from a higher level. Okay. One thing, Daryl, is that I'm noticing again, this must be the histogram show. I think you can name it that. But you do have whites that are actually out of gamut. So you've got some blowouts, and they are right between, if you look at the right two peaks next to this tall tree, right in between the first and second peak, counting right to left, and then second and third peak, all of that is actually blown out. So you're going to want to make sure you pull your highlights back a little bit if you try to print this image, which I hope you're going to do, just to make sure that they don't come out as white blotches on your print, because that's what'll happen there. But other than that, excellent image. I think that, you know, it's got good contrast, good color. You got decent light. It's very difficult with the mountain ranges around you. There's mountains behind him here as well. I don't think I've seen any images where that entire range is lit up, because it's just not possible for the sun. By the time it gets the color, it's got shadows. But he did a good job, because I've seen photos where not even this much of them is lit up. So he did a good job with that as well. So yeah, good job, man. I like it. Want to go there. It was on my list. It got nixed this year because of border crossings and all of that junk to get 4 people across the border and back safely. And so we went to Yellowstone, but it's still on my list. Jasper and Banff are both coming up. So can't wait.
All right. Last image we're going to do tonight, because we're going way long, is this one. If I haven't done one you wanted me to do, you know, say something. But I want to do this one, and it's a good one to end on. Okay. And that is this image from Tony.
Tony
Carudo?
Curado. Yep.
All right.
Yep. Tony is finally on the East Coast. I'm a bad guy because I know Tony very well. He works for me, so he works over at Travel Obscura. So I will not be biased. I promise, folks. I don't pull. Tony knows that. He knows when he brings his images, I'm not gonna pull any punches. I don't pull no punches.
He's scouting potential spots for a shoot in the Milky Way, and he knew he had to come back and get sunset at this spot. He liked the rocks in the foreground, but his main focus here was capturing the sunset in all its glory, with the lighthouse being the main focus.
Yeah, this is the Nubble Lighthouse at Portland, I think. We were there last year, and it was fogged out. It was really cool. The sun came up and was just orange fog everywhere. It really looked awesome. This place is very difficult. Tony climbed down on the rocks. Must be looks like it was at high tide, actually. So no, it was low tide. Well, or getting to be high tide, because the water line is actually up quite a ways from where this is at. You can see it out there on the actual island itself. So this must have been at lower tide. It's very difficult. This is a beautiful place. Everyone should go there and take photos of it. But the problem with this place is those wires that go out. Yeah. And Tony, you knew I'd call you on this. Take the telephone poles out, man. Those people don't need power out there. They live in a lighthouse.
It's underground power.
That's right. They should be using hydroelectric. No, but I mean, it's just everywhere you go there. It's a beautiful thing. It looks amazing, but those wires are just so annoying when you're there. And I'm sure Tony will reiterate that it's a pain in the butt trying to get a composite. I always had to shoot everything here without that little house that's on the left. So I shot the red barn in the lighthouse. I made it kind of a 3 thing, and I would start my frame over there and then have it, kind of the negative space would be on the right of it. And that's the only way that I could I could get this to line up and be nice. But if you do shoot the Milky Way here, because Tony's got the Galactic 50 project going on,
Right.
it's over at his website, truevisionphotos.com.
Okay.
I think I got that right, and it should be back up now that DreamHost is back running again. But go check out his project. It's pretty freaking awesome. He's trying to capture the Milky Way in all 50 states. I think that's just amazing.
That is a great project.
Yeah, so it's not going to be done tomorrow. He's spreading it out. He's just getting over an illness, so he's ready to get back at it. And he and I are going to get together for autumn up here in New York, and we're going to do some shooting, and I'm looking forward to that. But Tony, if you decide to do your thing here, which is great, Maine is an awesome place to do. There's probably 75,000 different places to do it in Maine. But if you do decide to do it here, just try to crop out them wires, because they kind of just ruin the whole effect for me personally, and either in post or in pre. And a suggestion, Tony, if you're thinking of shooting someplace in New Hampshire, consider shooting at the observatory on Mount Washington. That would be an experience, shooting the Milky Way up there.
Awesome.
That'd be very cool.
All right. That was the last one that I have for tonight.
Awesome.
For us to do. Now what we need to do, AD, is pick a winner of the preset.
Oh man, you always do this to me.
And so I'd love to give Thomas that, but he doesn't have Lightroom. So Thomas, you ever get Lightroom, we'll include you in the drawing for that. But right now he doesn't have Lightroom, so we'll take him out.
I got to go back to the beginners. I'm getting there.
Okay.
I'm slow, man. Slow.
I think Jade Cook, if I remember right, has already got it. So.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna choose anybody right now, right off the bat, I think I probably would nominate Alicia for it. I think she could get some use out of it with the wedding stuff, and I know she does more. With Thomas, the Lightroom thing. I think Thomas needs to focus right now on composition, and then he can get into the crazy presets and all that. You can kind of get lost in some of this stuff if you have too much of it thrown at you at once. Thomas, keep entering, by the way, because I don't know, I'm not speaking for Mike here, but I know last year they gave away a subscription for Adobe for the year.
For a year, yep.
Yeah, so that might happen again. Who knows? I might chip in if Mike doesn't decide to do that, whatever. But
who knows what we're going to do?
Who knows? But that's out there, right? So you might keep entering your photos, because you want to be in the running for that for sure.
Well,
so
let's go with that. Now you said a name completely different than I did, so I've probably been saying your name wrong. Elijah, is that? So you have to tell us if I said it wrong earlier. Sorry, but we'll go with Elijah. So Elijah, you win the preset pack, and let me show you what that is. So if we go over to AD's website, which is theexplorographer.com, and I think we've had it down below in these notes when I just pulled this up. I got the link down there.
Crossing my fingers that it actually works.
Well, I have it pulled up here. Let's see. If we go to store, whether the store works. Go to store, and we'll be sending. Yeah, look at that. It's fast too. We'll be sending you the link, or I'll be sending you the link and the code later on. But you go down here and you're winning the Lightroom preset pack. It's 40 presets.
45, 44,
40
actually.
plus.
Yeah, because there's 4 beta presets in there that I'm adding right now, which that pack is almost finished. So maybe by the time we do another show, there'll actually be a second Lightroom pack.
Okay.
That I'll have available. So.
And while you're over there at AD's site, if you want to follow AD, you have somewhere, here you go, follow me. Down at the bottom of his page in the footer section, all the different places you can follow him. Facebook is where I generally follow AD. Also consider, go over here and here we go, Patreon. He's also got a YouTube channel, but here's his Patreon link, which I might be able to get that Patreon link up here too.
Thecreators.com, yay!
Let's see. So there's his Patreon link. What are you doing over there on Patreon there, AD?
Well, we just changed our focus. So it used to be called the Explorographer Creating Exploragraphers, and now I've decided that that's not what we are at all. We're actually all creators, and we get up every morning and we want to make something and share it with other people to enrich their lives, and we don't really realize this, but as creators, we shape the future of the world. And I know that seems kind of strange, but that's exactly what happens through our images, through our videos of helping other people, through inspiration of other people, just us doing these shows and talking to other people. This helps change other people's lives. And who knows, they could be the next Ansel Adams. We don't know. All it takes is one little bit of inspiration. So I've changed the name of the Patreon page to The Creators, which is French. It's the original French 1300s of creator. And it's all in lowercase because we're not God. We're just creators. Mm-hmm. We create things. So I just did that as a tribute to all of the wonderful Patreon subscribers that I have that support me. And I make videos and by request. So you become a subscriber and you say, hey, AD, I want to learn about how to take film photos with my old film camera. I'll make a video. I'll do a series on film cameras, whatever. It's basically all in your hands. I'm kind of like a on-demand video maker
Awesome.
guy. And I also do mentoring. So I'll take you under my wing. We'll learn together. I'll try to help you get over your creative roadblocks. Ultimately, I've got a new thing coming out that I haven't told anybody about. Mike, nobody even knows this. Not even Danielle doesn't even know this yet.
Wow.
I'm considering putting together a once-a-week podcast that's only 30 minutes long. It's only going to be audio, and I have a little reason why I'm only doing audio. As creators, we're constantly trying to maximize our time for creativity. And to watch a video requires our eyes and our ears at the same time. But an audio podcast you can listen to while you do other things. So my goal is that I'm going to talk about basically the latest in photography news, like all the crash plan stuff. And it's just going to happen once a week. And it's just going to be audio. And it's going to be out on my Patreon as just a free thing on my Patreon page for people to get every Friday.
Awesome.
It's going to be it's going to be called the Weekly Fat, and it's going to be PHAT, and the PH stands for photography, so the Weekly Fat, and the whole thing is you get your consumption that day, and that gives you energy for the rest of the week. And I'm just going to talk about the wacky stuff that photographers have to deal with, the latest news on photography, the DreamHost thing that went on today with them, and just tidbits of news that have to do with photography. That's all. So
and if we are contributors to Patreon, or what do they call it when you contribute to Patreon? Is it a contributor?
You're a patron. You're a patron.
If you're a patron to your Patreon page, then you'll be able to get this, right?
Yeah. So it starts. So you can subscribe to me on Patreon to help the cause, to make more videos for $1 a month. And it's just $1. And everybody who submits $1 gets everything. It's not like the people who want personal mentoring and all that kind of stuff, that's different tiers. So I do personal mentoring for $35 a month. And it's not a subscription where you got to buy a year. You can pay a month and just do it once and see if you like it. If you don't like it, you can just be like, I don't like it, man. So I cancel. But for $1, you basically get all my secret stuff before anybody else gets it. And then, if you want to wait and be too late and be the last guy on the block to see all the cool stuff, then you could just watch it on YouTube, I guess. But yeah.
Very good. Awesome. All right, so I mentioned I would say something at the end of the show about how to, enter and everything. So let's go.
Yes.
Let me go back over here. So if you go over to jpegtheraw.com and then go to photo contest and then come down to, let's see if I can click it, contest entry. Right here you have the main group, which this month there's no theme, And the beginners group, this month there's a theme called Black and White. And you click either one of these buttons, and then there's an entry form where you can enter. That's if you don't want to go through Facebook. If you want to go through Facebook, here's the 2 links to the beginners group, and the regular group and a beginners group, where you can do it through there. And it's at the top of the page. Let me get rid of that message somebody sent me. At the top of the page here is in the group is the album where you can enter your photos for that month. Very easy. Yep, and if you want to subscribe to this show, so if we go over to subscribe over on our webpage, our main show, here's all the links to subscribe there. The show we're doing now, the photo review show, it's available in video on YouTube and Vimeo and iTunes and Video Large and Video Small. And then, of course, there's an RSS feed also where you can do that. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and get it there. That's generally the place it's going to be first. This raw recording, of course, is there as soon as I press stop. It'll be up there. And you can get that, which will have the intro and the exit. I clean it up later on. And then the final one's put out. So subscribe, and that's the best way to get it. And make sure you have it as soon as it's out. All right, that's all I had. I know, AD, thanks for hanging out and giving us extra time tonight. Lots of good tips.
Mike, we always go over, and
we do.
I don't know. I always have a good time, so it's no sweat, man. We all 2 hours tonight, man.
I know.
2 hours.
I don't mind. I don't have much else to do, but I'd feel guilty taking up so much of your time. And right tonight, I do have something to do because I want to go do the diopter thing that you mentioned.
Yes, adjust your diopters. Make sure your lens cover is on, and focus your eyes. Now, Mike, you wear glasses. Do you wear your glasses when you shoot?
Unfortunately, I do. Yeah. Do you?
Okay. Well, I do and I don't. It depends. Sometimes they annoy me, so they come down. I have like those. I have one of those things that goes on. And I can take my glasses off and just let go of them, and they hang around my neck like I'm 80 years old or whatever. No offense to 80-year-old people, but
how do you go back and forth between having them on and not having them on? Isn't your vision totally different?
Yeah, but if I'm looking at my viewfinder, my glasses are kind of I wear bifocals.
Okay.
So they're transition lenses.
Right.
So if you have those, the diopter adjustment can be a mess to try to deal with. You just want to make sure that what I do is I use the rim of my glasses to line it up with the top of my viewfinder so that I know my eyes are looking through the same piece of glass they always are. Because if I look through the bottom piece of my glass, it's way different than it is on my top, and there's no line here at all. So it's an Invisalign thing. So we're called progressives. I keep calling transitions, but they're progressive. Transition lenses are something different. Yeah. One of the things that helped me is I have glasses that have Crizal coating now, so I don't get any glare when I'm looking and that's helped quite a bit when I'm looking in there. But just when you set your diopter, you set it. Make sure your glasses are like. I don't have my camera here to show you, but just make sure that your edge of your viewfinder it's level with the top of your glass, so you're looking through the same part. And then just look at the lettering on the inside. Of the viewfinder, and keep turning that dial until that lettering's perfectly clear. And then the other way I do it is if I don't have my glasses on, I can really jam the thing in my eyeball so I can really see in the viewfinder. And that's a completely different adjustment because my eyes are so bad. So
you having to go back and forth between those two adjustments then?
Yeah, and it becomes like any other dial. Once you know where it's at and how to adjust it, it's like any other dial on your camera. So it's basically, I do it sometimes. It depends. Like a lot of times I'll go and shoot a whole day and my glasses don't bug me at all. And then sometimes I'll go out and my eyes will water and my glasses will just be like, don't want to cooperate. And so then, I have to do it outside of that. So
Willie says this is for your show that you're going to be doing there, AD. No fake photography news.
Yes, I'm not a fan of fake news myself.
And then he says, "Don't need to sleep, keep going." So he's fine with us going this long. Well, we're gonna have a little bit of post show, but let me go ahead and end the regular show. So thanks, guys, for coming out. We'll see you next month when we do the August photos. Keep shooting. Good night.
Night.
All right, that'll be the end of The regular show. I don't. As we wrap up here, one of the posts I got was from my. I have a lot of IT friends too. A lot of groups I'm in for IT related stuff, tech guys, and the crash plan thing is all the talk over there.
Oh yeah.
And I've been trying to read the Unraid forums to see what are we going to do, because obviously the Unraid app, the Docker, is going to die whenever. I have 2 accounts. I have the personal one with all our individual PCs. I got 9. I guess if they give us 2 more months, I got 11 months on that. But my Unraid machine only has 3 months left. And I've got 12 terabyte uploaded from Unraid.
Yeah, I don't. It's just a bad scene, man. Because like you're gonna dump that. I mean, it's and so for me, it was like, well, I'm not going to download it to someplace else because I already have a copy in the other room.
I got it here.
I'm just gonna. I canceled my account. I'm just like, I'm done. I'm not. And so I went and looked at the apps in the community apps program.
Right.
And so I see that there's quite a few programs out there that you can set up to run to just about any cloud system. In fact, Backblaze B2 and Amazon.
Oh, there was a Backblaze, because that's where I think I'm going to go for my personal computers.
Well, but it's a command line Docker, so you have to punch in to get it started. You have to enter some stuff in the command line to get it going, which I'm sure there's so much documentation on Unraid that I'm not really afraid to do something like that. But right now, like I told you on the show the other night, the thing that bugs me is that I've got to go to a $79 plan. I haven't been able to find anybody who offers anything that can support me for less than that. Do I want to start paying someone $79 a year just to dump my backups at some point in time? Or do I want to build a new system and go park it at a person's house and start backing up there? And that's what I'm going to end up doing. I'm going to just build another system, another Unraid box.
Yeah.
So,
back in the earlier days, back several versions ago on Unraid, Crash Plan, the app that they had there before we had Docker and all that kind of stuff, it was, command line and all these codes you had to go through to get it working. It was a pain in the butt to get it working and complicated, at least for me. The Docker made it so simple. I mentioned this the other night. Crash Plan has decided to leave the consumer market. But I wonder how much consideration they've given that the reason they have some of the business accounts is because a person using it personally, the consumer version, decided, hey, this is so good, I'm going to use it at work too. And that's exactly what happened to us. We have the enterprise account, not the pro, but beyond the pro. We have the enterprise at work, where we have hundreds and hundreds of computers that are using that. We're paying licenses for all that. So when I met with my team Wednesday, I told them, when this license is over, we're done. You've got till that happens to find something else. But I no longer can trust Crash Plan, and therefore we're done doing business with them. Yeah,
so you have a business account with them for your business, and you're basically at this point. Yeah, I think personally for me, it's a bad. Well, not bad, but it's like a reality check for cloud online storage. I think that's the main thing for me. Will it? I don't want to run from it and think, well, everybody's going to do this. But I think the weird thing was it took me a long time to settle on Crash Plan. I tried the other guys and didn't like them. I had an Amazon. I had Backblaze for a while, Carbonite. At first, Crash Plan was wonderful. It was like Bluehost when I first started working with them. They were personable, they were wonderful, and then they started outsourcing, and then I couldn't get a hold of anybody, and then things started failing, and and ultimately now I'm not with them anymore. I'm at DreamHost, where everybody's like, "Wow, man, what'd you do to your site? How do you get it to like I'm a superhero?" All of a sudden, I said, "No." It's just that they know how to run servers properly, and obviously Bluehost doesn't. But it's my fear. It was my fear with websites and social media and everything else that we're not in control of any of that
Right.
stuff, even though we get to use it for free, and we're investing our lives in social media and in our lives in YouTube. And tomorrow, Google could decide that they want to make YouTube into a corporate-only video sharing like they did with Hangouts, where Hangouts is basically going to go to corporate only. And if you want to use live video, you're going to use Allo or Duo, which is their other products.
Right.
Whereas we've come to rely on Hangouts for, and then it's going to become a business thing. So it's like anything out there. If you're going to, I think it's weird with CrashPlan because it's a pay service, and I just feel like I've been slighted.
Yeah, and I feel like they didn't. Obviously they probably did this for business reasons, that they didn't do anything, at least from what we can see, of saying, "Hey, we're losing money on this thing. Let's either change some of the rules where it's not truly unlimited." You could, if you had abusers, like maybe you considered me an abuser. I don't know.
Right.
You could have done that, or you could have just said, "Hey, once you go beyond this, it costs extra," or something. Change the price model and make it profitable.
Right.
If you were even close, that I feel like they made no effort to make that profitable and keep us going there. But I'm like, I want to see what you end up doing, because I'm also considering building another box and putting it somewhere. I'm not sure. My parents, which is the closest family to me, is 12 hours away. So that's not really viable for me. And I can't, if I tried to give instructions to my parents to fix something, it would end up worse off than when we began. So
yeah,
I got to find some other solutions closer. But my first issue is, how do I get the two to sync up?
Well, you would sync them up in your house and then move the server for just updates as needed.
Yeah, the initial backup would be, but then how do I keep it going, and like when I make changes it get...
So I would probably just use Resilio Sync, which it works in Unraid, and I wouldn't. Okay. I would back up to my local. So the way I do it, and the way I was doing it before, and the way I run Dropbox is the same way. I like for Dropbox. Let's just do Dropbox for instance. I have Dropbox on all my computers, and I have a folder on every one of my computers. It's called Dropbox, and I have the app running on all my computers, and I have my main syncing app though is on Unraid. So basically, my folder is a network folder called Dropbox. So I point the apps at that, and then Unraid syncs it all up for me. I don't do that on my main computers, and I do the same thing with Resilio Sync. What that does is you run it on your desktop. It copies stuff and mirrors things over to Unraid, and then Unraid has an app that mirrors it off-site. So that's how I do it, and that keeps the chain going in the right order too. And it also helps me have logs on each system. So if something goes wrong, I can check the log file and find out in the chain where things are going wrong. So what I would probably do, is I would probably run a Windows box. I know that seems really weird, but I would probably just run a Windows box, turn updates and everything off on it. I would put up a firewall, and I would only allow through a secret port, basically, for Resilio Sync. And I would put Resilio Sync on that machine and pull the monitor, pull the keyboard, pull everything off it. Set up a Windows desktop remote pass. Like when I log into my VM here, if I don't want to get advanced graphics and all that kind of stuff, I have a remote request that I built on the VM and saved it. And now anytime I want to log into the computer in the other room, I just hit the remote thing. I saved it as a shortcut. I click on the shortcut, it logs in, I get a screen, and away I go. I would probably do that for a remote system, and just there would be no monitor, there'd be nothing. It would just be a box connected to the internet, connected to battery backup.
Yeah.
And that would be it. And you can automate all of that so that if the power goes out, that system shuts down nicely, and then it turns back on nicely and logs back in.
What are you telling you're like me. You've probably convinced a number of people to go to CrashPlan.
I did. I did a whole series on it.
And you and I have our Unraid systems and some fairly complicated setups, and can handle this better than maybe some others can. So, like, my parents, I have family, friends, people who've listened to the show. Right now, I'm leaning toward telling those people, all right, if you don't have a server like I have, if you're just talking about a PC or two, or laptop, something like that, just a few things like that, where you're not backing up 10, 12, 50 terabytes, you're backing up a reasonable amount of data. I'm leaning toward telling those people to just go to Backblaze.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of Carbonite.
Well, OneDrive is out there too, which is getting huge reviews right now.
iDrive, you mean?
Is it iDrive? Yeah, iDrive, not OneDrive. OneDrive is what I just dealt with Microsoft. Yeah, iDrive. My whole thing is just the jadedness that I'm running into with online backup. So yeah. I'm like, go get a NAS and copy your stuff off, and then take it to work and put it in a locker at work. And then when you're ready, come back, bring it home each month and copy new stuff onto it and take it back to work. I don't know. I mean, that was one of my suggestions when I did the backup special that I did, which was a multi-part series on how to get started in backing up your photos, because there are many people out there who don't do any backup, which is ridiculous. At the very worst, doing in-house backups is one thing, but if your house catches on fire, you lose everything.
Right.
So your only option there is basically to do another set of backups and then move them off site. So what Mike and I are talking about is, if you built a system in someone else's house, which seems weird, but really isn't that weird, and you connected it at night when they're not on the internet or anything, that system could actually get your files. And if you sync the two machines up before you go park it someplace, doing daily backups takes no bandwidth hardly at all. You're not bringing
except for people like me who, like this show tonight, will be 130 gig of data.
Yeah, so anybody who's shooting video is a different story. But I think by the time you get to archiving videos and producing video, you probably already know a pretty good idea of what you need to do for backups. So
Jordan is still out there. Probably one of the few people left still watching us as we go so long. But he uses Backblaze and really likes it. And Backblaze, I'm kind of shell shocked like you or whatever, untrusting of the cloud right now for that. I don't have a great solution though for like my mom. Some of the coworkers I work with, they're going to have to go with like a Backblaze or something. They're not capable of, or don't want to. I should say capable.
How much are you talking? But how much storage are you talking about?
Well, I think the average person doesn't have nearly as much as us. They're going to have 50 gig, 100 gig, something like that. Not a whole lot.
Give them Amazon Prime and they get free storage.
That's true for photos, and because they've gotten rid of the file thing for free.
Yeah, and if not, $99 a year, Dropbox gives you a terabyte. I mean, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad either.
If you don't think, a terabyte's a lot for a lot of people. So
I will tell you that what I do for my kids who are off at college, because they have a laptop they take to class, but their main thing is a desktop, is I tell them, you do everything you save is in some Dropbox folder.
Right.
You can do whatever folder structure you want, but inside of Dropbox. And that way, if you're in class taking notes, when you get back to your dorm, it's on your desktop too. If somebody steals your laptop or you drop your laptop or anything happens, it's on both systems and it's also on the cloud. So that way you're not calling me up saying, Dad, I just lost this paper I've been working on for all weekend. It's in both places. Or actually, all three.
Yeah.
So there's
also Mega as well. So, you get 50 gigabytes from Mega for free, for a free account, which I've used for them. They're located in New Zealand, but they have fast connects, so it's not like
that's not that guy who.
Yeah, it's Kim.com.
It's that guy. So, I don't know if I'd trust him.
Well, I've had stuff. They have a brand new policy now with as far as storage goes. They don't allow anything, because basically, in case anybody doesn't know the whole story out there, that Mega originally was shut down in the U.S. for keeping pirated. It was used for pirates to transfer pirated software with, and they were a privacy company, so their whole thing was it was encoded files. They didn't know what people were sending to their servers because they couldn't see anything. and the U.S. government got down on them, and basically he only had his servers in the United States, but he wasn't from here. He's never been from here. And so it's a pretty interesting story, his whole thing. But the way it is now is that they bag you if you put any sort of software on their servers. So I've had stuff on there for quite a while and stored it, and it hasn't been a problem. So they're cheap. They're not expensive. That's the other thing. I'm looking at their plans and pricing, and it's 4 terabytes of storage, 8 terabytes of transfer is only $20 a month. So that's not too bad. I mean, could be worse, but that's up to you. I'm not recommending anybody. So that's kind of where
I'm not sure what I'm going to do as far as my server goes. I think the individual PCs I can figure something out, but I'm not sure what I'm going to do on the server.
Yeah, if I had one piece of advice for anybody out there, don't type into the internet, don't type into Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever you use, best cloud backup. Don't do that, because you'll find all these sites. PC Mag is one of them, and all these, and they make these recommendations, and you know what? They're all affiliated.
Exactly.
So you don't know. The best thing you could do is ask your friends what they use. Try a few things out. Even sometimes what your friends use is not good for you. Take it a little deeper. Ask them what they use it for, why they use it. Do they have problems with it? And then, try some of the stuff out. A lot of them have 30-day free trials, so you can see how fast their service is. You can see how hard their apps are to use or how easy they are to use. That's the only advice I'm giving out right now. I can't recommend anybody over anybody else.
Yeah,
it's just.
Well, I think that's a good spot for us to stop.
All right. Cool.
All right. So hold on one second, AD. Chat room. No Jordan's at least still out there. Anybody else still out there? I'm going to stop the live stream. We'll see you for this show next month. Good night, guys.
Night.
All right. Thank you for going so long there, AD.
Dude, it's fine. If you get bored, because I'll talk for, because I've basically